Hey everyone. So, we're going to talk about what to do when you have missed IEP minutes. This is a difficult situation no matter what your role is at the IEP table. It becomes uncomfortable for the teachers, the parents, the therapists. It becomes this hot topic of what to do when minutes are missing because I can guarantee that there has been some struggles in your district when it comes to minutes being missed in the past. So how you handle this situation is super important because we want to get to a solution as fast as possible. So as soon as you figure out what is happening in your students or your child's day. And the reason I say it that way is because, teachers are in charge of a lot of different moving pieces when it comes to an IEP. And sometimes you don't realize that all the minutes aren't lining up until they haven't been lining up for a little while. Parents, same thing for you. Sometimes you don't realize what's not happening until it hasn't been happening for a little while. That's the case a lot of the time when it comes to missed minutes. So these minutes could be speech therapy minutes, occupational therapy minutes, resource minutes, direct instruction minutes. It could be a lot of different categories of missed minutes. But there's a couple of steps that you need to take to make sure that this doesn't get out of control. So the first thing is that you need to make sure that you have a clear documentation in writing that's agreed upon between everybody about how many minutes have actually been missed. This becomes a big discussion most of the time because there can be some different perceptions on exactly how many minutes have been missed. So your first goal is to really get those minutes documented and solidified, as in there are 75 minutes that have been missed for speech therapy in the last 30 days. Now, a plan to make those minutes up can look different depending on what a child's school day looks like, what the availability is of the provider. So we don't want the child to be missing other important things in their school day to make up minutes that should have happened in the first place. So this is where we get into that conversation of, when do we make them up? How do we make them up? Can it happen before school, after school? Is there a place in the school day that we can squeeze those in? Is this something that is maybe a service that we can wait until over the summer to possibly make up these minutes? Are there staff available over the summer to help make up those minutes? Do we need to start looking at a third-party person to make up those minutes, such as an outside speech therapist or an outside certified tutor or an outside occupational therapist? Whatever the plan is, whatever you guys come to an agreement in, I want to make sure, again, that you get these things in writing, because there has to be a clear plan to make up those minutes, and there has to be a deadline, because what we don't want is another set of minutes to be missed or another complication to kind of happen because these minutes aren't happening. And if we have the makeup plan and the makeup plan isn't followed, then we need to go to a plan B as soon as possible. See, it becomes very frustrating when you have missed minutes, you agreed upon how many minutes are missed. You have a plan to make those up and you're all set to go. And then all of a sudden that plan doesn't work out. And if you don't have a deadline, then that plan just kind of gets extended and extended and extended. So make sure that you have a clear deadline of when these minutes need to be made up. Now, if that deadline doesn't work out, then we need to look to a plan B, which a lot of times that does lead to a third party person providing those minutes and a school district reimbursing. Now, don't take this as, Catherine said, if this doesn't happen, you will pay for a third party person to take care of these minutes. I'm sharing with you the experience in the last 20 years of putting together creative solutions and moving through these situations as fast as possible to get the best results, to make sure the child is getting an appropriate education, to make sure that we're not putting things on hold. It's too much to pile on all of this, what's called compensatory services. So making things up on top of providing an appropriate education, it becomes really difficult. So we can't let things like this spiral out of control. So I have a question here from Jen. She says, should this be part of an IEP meeting, as in they should be providing a document that tracks the minutes overall to make sure it matches it up? I don't want you to wait until an IEP meeting, Jen. I want to make sure that you are getting updates on minutes and what's happening, at least at the same intervals that you're getting report cards and progress reports. So I don't want this to be something that all of a sudden you find out at the IEP meeting, 6 months later, that it has kind of been out of control and it spirals into something that's very hard to come back from. Jen also says this might be a separate topic entirely, but is there a good way to approach asking the district to provide it instead of us getting it privately? Yeah, absolutely, Jen. I'm not sure, Jen, if you are in any of the IEP training programs that I have, but inside of the special education inner circle, then oh, and she just made instead of us getting OT privately, that she made a little correction there. So I want you to come join me in the special education inner circle if you're not already there, or if you're a master IEP coach, you also have access to what we call prior written notice examples or advocacy letters that really document this whole journey, this conversation that I'm talking about having. It really helps you format exactly what needs to happen in a formal way that doesn't cause conflict where it's not needed. This needs to be a very direct conversation. Sometimes it's an uncomfortable conversation. Sometimes it's frustrating to get to those solutions, but there's an absolute kind of formula that I've been using for 2 decades with school districts, and it still works because let's just face it, our school districts have not changed much in the last 20 years. Special education has not changed much at all in the last 20 years. So using this format absolutely works to get a response quickly and to move it up on the action item list for your child, meaning it takes priority and it gets the team talking about how are you going to solve this problem. So Jen, if you are not in the special education inner circle or in the master IEP coach mentorship, I'm going to get you those links so you can get those examples, because I don't want you struggling and how do you put all this in the words and how do you get them to respond and how do you get that timeline and that deadline and how do you put all that together? I have examples for you with all of those. So if you guys have questions about how to make up missed IEP minutes and need some creative ideas or some further questions about the IEP process, please keep those questions coming below. I cannot wait to connect with you.